Hey guys, it's Willie McBride. I've been doing a little series on the San Pedro OCR and some of the lessons that we can learn from the GPS tracks from this regatta. And we've been giving a lot of love to the ILCA6s. So I wanted to take a look at the men's fleet here on day 2 of Gold Fleet, because I think there's a lot of the same trends that we just talked about in terms of starts. And I wanted to look at what that looks like. So one of the big trends on day 2 of Gold Fleet racing here is that we saw pin favor quite often. It seems like maybe the race committee was favoring that pin because they saw so much of the fleet piling up at the boat end and really wanted to try to draw some of that fleet down to the pin. So what we're looking at here with this rainbow chart on the starting line is that the thick sections are sections with a lot of density on the line, and the thinner sections are the sections with the least density. And once again, in the laser full rig fleet, in the ILCA7s, we see this trend where the leaders often today came from these spots of low density near the biased end. And so in this case, we see the leader here really coming from a place where they can tack and cross the fleet early. They're one of the first boats to tack, or maybe the first boat to tack and start to get across. And that sets them up in this really nice position where they can foot, they can go fast, and they can get over top of this fleet down to leeward and take advantage of the right-hand side. And although we had some boats down here on the left who were able to take advantage of more of that bias, this boat that started in the low density to windward of that biased end is able to get to the favored side in this case, tack on top of the fleet, and that's the winning lane from race 1 today. If we go to the next race, we see a very, very similar thing. Again, a lot of density down here at the boat end from people who know that the right-hand side is favored. A bit of density down here at the pin, probably from people who realize that we have 10 degrees of pin favor here. And the leader coming from a spot of low density to windward of that pin third, to windward of the biased end. And again, at the gun, here's what we look like. All the boats from the pin end looking really, really strong with that bias. But then this boat who can tack, one of the first boats to get out and get across and sail fast, ends up getting to the right nice and early, able to foot over boats to leeward of them and take a position on ley line that puts them in a really strong spot coming back on starboard. Let's take a look at what that looks like, and then we'll look at the final race of the day. In this case, I think one of the big factors is that they don't go past ley line. And when you're calling ley line from that far out, that's obviously a really hard thing to do. If you're 5 degrees off, you've sailed a long ways past ley line. And so that's one of the things we talked about quite a bit in the J70 Nationals debrief that I think was very relevant today for the lasers, is how do you make that decision, whether to go slightly shy, slightly thin, or whether to go slightly past ley line and more into the favored side. So this is the final race of the day, race 5 of Gold Fleet. And in this race, we see the favored position coming from down here at the pin end, actually. We've got, again, 9 degrees basically of pin end favor. And if we look early in the race in this one, once again, all the leaders coming from that pin end, from that biased end, and then by the top, those leaders are able to hang on. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. But I think the major takeaway from today is that we had the majority of the fleet fighting for this boat end start, fighting for the right-hand side of the course. And the teams who recognized that there was a lot of pin bias, so much so, in fact, that it was more important to start down there at the favored side, were the ones who ended up winning the races. So here's what that looks like in this case. And I think one of the things that set this race apart from the first two a little bit was that at that start here, if we back it up, and we watch where this boat came from, they're closer to the pin in this race. But what we can see is that you don't have anyone from this really low density spot on the line, like maybe this boat, leading back quite as early. You have more boats already on port than you did in those first races where the boats at the pin were kind of locked up and unable to tack. And in this case, because those boats at the pin are able to tack right away, they're very much in this battle and able to kind of get to that right side, take advantage of that bias, and also take advantage of the favored side late in the leg. So hopefully that's helpful. Good luck out there tomorrow, and we'll see what we see in the next couple of days.